The sun glared mercilessly over the sprawling grounds of the Valen estate as Arienna Solace stood on the gravel driveway, trembling with a mix of devastation and disbelief. Moments earlier, she had walked into the marble-floored foyer she called home only to discover the truth that shattered her world. Her husband, the powerful billionaire Cassian Valen, had replaced her entirely. In her absence, he had moved his mistress into their home, erased Arienna's presence from every room, every portrait, every memory, as if she had never existed at all. She felt as though she were watching her life burn down in broad daylight, unable to move, unable to breathe, as Cassian coldly told her she was no longer needed. And in that instant, when she felt the ground slip from beneath her feet, she realized she had lost everything: her marriage, her home, her safety, her place in a world she had helped build from the shadows. If you believe in kindness, redemption, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Light right now to support stories that heal the heart. Arienna left with nothing but a small suitcase and the haunting echo of their final, dismissive glance. She didn't cry until she reached the outskirts of the estate, where the manicured lawns ended and the world became real again. She sank onto a sun-warmed bench near the bus stop, her hands pressed against her belly in a gesture she hoped would steady her. The pregnancy test she had taken earlier that morning felt like a secret burning through her skin. She had planned to tell him with a soft smile and hopeful eyes, imagining a future where they would grow closer through this new life. Instead, she was forced to flee before she could say a word. The days that followed were heavy with despair. Arienna checked into a small, faded yellow countryside inn owned by an elderly widow named Meridia, whose gentle presence soothed her raw spirit. Meridia didn't ask why Arienna's eyes were often red or why she held her stomach each morning with trembling hands. She simply brewed warm ginger tea, told stories about resilience, and reminded Arienna that the sun always rose, even after the cruelest storm. It was in those quiet days, surrounded by wildflowers and the peaceful hum of summer insects, that Arienna began to piece herself back together. Carrying Cassian's child alone forced her to confront truths she had long avoided. She had lived under the weight of his ambition for years, fading into the background as he climbed higher and higher in the corporate world. She had mistaken tolerance for love, silence for peace, and survival for happiness. Now, with new life growing inside her, she vowed never to let herself be erased again. She spent weeks learning, planning, and rediscovering the fierce determination she had buried under years of obedience. What Cassian didn't know was that the empire he ruled had been built in no small part by Arienna's strategic mind. She had once worked alongside him before stepping back to support him quietly. She knew the company inside out. She knew its strengths, its weaknesses, its vulnerabilities, and most importantly, she knew her worth, even if he didn't. Months passed, and Arienna found strength in her transformation. With Meridia's help, she reconnected with an old mentor, a retired business strategist who had always admired her brilliance. They worked side by side in the sunlit dining room of the inn, turning plans and possibilities into a powerful reality. Arienna discovered opportunities Cassian had overlooked and prepared a proposal the board of Valen Industries couldn't ignore. It was bold, groundbreaking, and exactly what the company needed to avoid an upcoming crash that Cassian and his advisors had foolishly dismissed. When Arienna returned to the city, she didn't come with sorrow. She came with purpose. The sunlight caught on her confident stride as she entered the skyscraper she once avoided, her growing belly no longer a symbol of loss but of strength. The board meeting erupted with murmurs the moment she stepped inside. They all remembered her brilliance, her insight, her near-legendary ability to turn risks into victories. And when she laid out her proposal with calm precision, they saw that same fire still glowing fiercely inside her. Within an hour, the decision was unanimous. Arienna Solace was to take over as interim chief strategist, placing her in a position of immense influence, one Cassian had never allowed her to touch. Cashin's shock was palpable when he learned she was back, not crawling but rising. He stormed into her new office, expecting the timid wife he once dismissed, but found instead a woman transformed. She didn't shrink beneath his gaze. She met it with the full force of her resolve. His mistress, who had lounged so comfortably in the life Arienna built, suddenly found herself pushed to the sidelines as Cashin struggled to keep the company from slipping through his fingers. Arienna, now empowered and protected by the board's approval, acted not out of vengeance but clarity. She focused on the company's survival, the future of her child, and the life she was building, not the one she had lost. Working through the final weeks of her pregnancy, Arienna's influence stabilized the company just in time. Cashin could no longer deny the truth he had been too proud to face. She had always been the backbone of his success. When the baby finally arrived on a bright, peaceful morning, Arienna held her daughter close, tears of gratitude streaking down her cheeks as sunlight filled her hospital room. She named the baby Selene after the moon goddess who brought light to darkness. Cashin visited only once, standing awkwardly at the door, regret flickering in his expression. But Arienna only smiled softly, understanding that forgiveness and reconnection were not the same thing. She had already chosen her future, and it didn't depend on him anymore. Months later, Arienna stood on the balcony of her new office overlooking the city, Selene asleep in a cradle nearby. She had reclaimed her life, reshaped her destiny, and found a strength she never knew she possessed. Her story was no longer about betrayal. It was about rebirth, and the world, bathed in warm daylight, felt full of possibility again. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Light, so more people can feel the healing power of stories like this. Special request, comment reborn. If Arienna's journey inspired you today,